Hi, everybody. In today's show, I want to compare versions of the Brian Wilson solo album, That Lucky Old Sun, which was released on the Capitol Records label in 2008. I know Brian Wilson's been in the news lately for some unfortunate reasons. His wife suddenly passed away a few weeks ago, and there are reports that Brian is suffering from dementia and can't take care of himself. It's a sad, sad situation. Love and mercy to you and your family, Brian. But that's not what drove this shootout comparison. I've been meaning to do this for a while because I've been tempted to trade in the vinyl copy ever since I acquired this CD. And now, with the new Fluence turntable I got a few months ago, I thought I'd better give the vinyl a chance to prove its mettle. In the final analysis, which version is better? Should I get rid of one or the other? Well, we're about to find out. That Lucky Old Sun was a rather ambitious effort for Brian. It's a concept album about Southern California, in particular, a kind of love letter to Los Angeles. And most of the tunes were co written with Scott Bennett, a member of Brian's band at the time. And Van Dyke Parks, his collaborator on the Smile sessions, was involved to some extent as well. Van Dyke wrote spoken word interludes between several of the tracks, which gives it a nice poetic touch. And the album opens with a standard, Lucky Old Sun, and this motif keeps getting reprised in different settings as the songs unfold over the course of the album. It's a sunny suite of tangerine flavored pop. The standout track for me is the melancholy piano ballad, Midnight's Another Day. But as I was listening to the album many times over for this shootout, I came to appreciate several other songs like Southern California, Live, Let Live, Morning Beat, Going Home, and Can't Wait Too Long. The vocal harmonies are inventive and exciting. Boy, would I love to hear the real Beach Boys harmonizing on these songs. Alas, nobody can replicate their unique blend of voices. Heck, maybe these days they could dial up an AI version of Dennis and Carl to stand in. For me, the album echoes the Sunflower era Beach Boys, though the production doesn't quite achieve the warmth that those early 70s albums had. I bought this on vinyl when it came out, and many years later, I found in the discount bins of a record store this Argentinian pressing of the CD. And then there's Tidal. So there are 3 versions of the album available on Tidal to stream. One with the original 17 tracks, and 2 versions have a couple bonus tracks. And I can't really tell the difference between those 2 versions. I'm not sure what's up with that. I understand that yet another exclusive version exists on Apple Music with 1 or 2 more bonus tracks, but I haven't listened to those. Anyway, the album credits list Bob Ludwig as the mastering engineer, and the vinyl mastering was done by Ron McMaster. This is going to be interesting because we have 2 different people involved in the shootout. I don't think this shootout is going to take us too long. We don't really need to do a track by track comparison as the differences were pretty consistent across the songs. But let me give you a quick note about the gear that I used. The turntable is a Fluence RT85 with an Ortofon 2M Blue cartridge. I used a preamp built into the Marantz Model 1040 amp. This is a vintage 1970s stereo amplifier. And the CD player is an Oppo DV970 HD. The headphones I used are Grado Prestige SR80Es, and the loudspeakers are ELAC Debuts 2.0. So let's see first how the music sounded in the headphones. First up is the vinyl. It's a clean pressing, and it's there's a sweetness to the production that I liked. I suspect that it was recorded digitally, the source tracks, but there's a rather well-rounded shape to the equalization, and overall it was a pleasant listen, maybe a bit thin in spots, but overall very, very nice. Now let's turn to the CD. A couple things to note here. The CD is obviously louder. I mean, that's generally the case, isn't it? So I had to turn the volume down on the Marantz amp to approximate the listening level of the vinyl. I just do it by ear. I don't have any like meters to do that. Anyway, the CD is not brick-walled like so many other CDs from that era. Perhaps there's a bit more sparkle in the high end compared to the vinyl. I did notice the string parts more on the CD. Like some of the songs have string arrangements as complementary stuff. But over the course of the album, my ears did get a little fatigued compared to the vinyl when listening through the headphones. Now the album is really a suite of songs. And here there are some distinctions worth remarking on. On the vinyl, it's you've got side A, side B, side 1, side 2, and side 1 feels a little bit more like one suite, and then side 2 feels like another suite. You get up, you flip the side, and you get a different experience. And as a concept, I sort of interpreted it as side 1 was more like the daytime side, and side 2 is more of like the nighttime side that kind of sort of rolls into the daytime, and that all weaves in with that Lucky Old Sun theme. On the CD, when you get to what would be the end of side 1, there's just a slight pause. I was hoping there would be a little more pause between like side 1 and side 2, but it just basically like keeps going, and it makes the experience feel like all these songs are one total suite. Now it's up to you to decide which presentation you prefer. I think I prefer the vinyl on that score, like that subtle difference. I like the pause between the sides and sort of treating them as two different entities, but it's not a deal breaker. As for the Tidal stream, I streamed the version that contained the bonus tracks. They're okay. I think the album works better as a 17-track original, because it is a concept album, and there's probably a reason they left those tracks off the final release. And it closely mirrors the CD quality. I was streaming through an iFi Zen DAC, so it has a slightly different coloring than the Oppo CD player's built-in DAC. So, there are some differences there, but I think that's more equipment-based. And I felt like through the iFi Zen, I heard maybe a little more bottom end that was pleasant to the ears. Overall, it's a fine listening experience. It's basically what you're getting off the CD. Now, on to the packaging. You would think that the vinyl and its gatefold cover would win hands down, but hold the phone. I don't think it's necessarily so. The front cover is nice. It's bold. It's bright. Lovers of the color orange will rejoice. But the gatefold artwork is just meh. I mean, it just seems like, I don't know what they were going for here. It seems almost like a waste of space. And the image of Brian on the back, I don't know if you can see this, but this sort of black and white, it lacks sharp resolution. It looks to me like they upsampled the imagery in Photoshop and they didn't do a particularly good job of it. This is not the only time I've seen this with new release vinyl. Like it seems like they're not designing in a large enough format to do what you can really do with a gatefold vinyl cover. Anyway, as for the CD, the booklet, I actually like what they did here. The artwork is connected to the tracks on the album, It's bright. Of course, you get the lyrics. You get the lyrics on both versions, but the lyric booklet works, and you can see the artwork here. And they have some additional photography. I mean, this is great. You know, there's Brian sitting in a lawn chair on the roof of the Capitol building, looking out over Hollywood. And I'm actually going to give the nod to the CD in terms of the packaging, just because I like the way the artwork was presented. And I will say that as far as label design, here's the CD label. I preferred the vinyl label over the CD. But that's overall, I think aesthetics wise, like they did a nice job with the CD booklet on this one. So moving right along. Honestly, in headphones, there's no clear winner here. Sonically, I would lean ever so slightly to the vinyl for two reasons. First, it's a gentler presentation. The vinyl was quiet. The sound was sweet and snuggly. Could be a little warmer and fuller, but it was pretty nice all around. And the second reason is that side A, side B factor I mentioned previously. I like thinking of the album as two halves of a whole. But anyway, as for the CD, it's no slouch. And like I said before, there's a sparkle to it that made me think it might edge out the vinyl. But it did verge on harshness at times, so it lost some points for me on that score. Tidal stream is fine. It's more or less what you find on the CD. If your CD copy doesn't have the bonus tracks, some CD copies did and some didn't. Then the Tidal is a nice way to hear them if you'd like to check those out. And they have a version without the bonus tracks if you want to hear it as originally intended. But wait a minute. The plot thickens. Let's see what we discover when we listen through the ELAC debut loudspeakers. Suddenly, the vinyl presentation stood apart from the crowd, and my wife confirmed this. She was sitting in the adjoining room, far away from the stereo's sweet spot. Now, don't get me wrong, the CD sounds excellent. If this was all you knew, you would not be worse off. It's a rich presentation. Some of the harshness I noticed in the headphones wasn't really an issue through the loudspeakers. And the ELAC's bass response seemed to compensate for any of the digital glare I was noticing. But my, oh me, oh my, did the vinyl shine through in this test through the loudspeakers. It was all about the sound stage. There was vastly more depth of field, front to back. And my wife, who was in the other room, felt like the side-to-side stereo spectrum was better. And I can't disagree with that, though from my position, it felt like there was the depth of the image that really stood out the most. The vinyl listen was much more involving all the way. The digital was pleasant, don't get me wrong, but it was just there, whereas the vinyl drew me in to the sound space. It was just that simple. So to conclude, while we have no clear winner in the headphone cans, through the speakers, the vinyl version takes the prize all the way. Now remember, the vinyl was mastered by a different engineer, so it makes sense that we would hear some differences aside from the obvious differences in hardware. So to my ears, leaving aside Brian's Smile album that he did right around the time that this album, I think it was before this album came out, the concept works for me, and I think it's his most artistically satisfying solo album. You can, again, accepting Smile. I mean, that was pretty special when that came out. But as far as like a new album of solo material, I think this is his best solo album. And you can tell that a lot of care went into the making of it. And like I said, the concept works for me. And neither the vinyl nor the CD versions disqualify themselves. They're both legitimate. They both are rewarding. But I have to give the nod to the vinyl here. So let me know in the comments what you think of this album, whether you prefer one format over another, and I'd like to hear what you think about it. If you like the video, hit that like button and subscribe and ring the notification bell if you wish. It really helps me to build an audience for the channel. Thanks a lot for watching.